Welcome everyone to the Saturday call. Today is 6/20. Want to welcome everyone from around the world. Hope everyone's doing well. So please, if you could, let me know in the chat window if you guys can hear me okay. You can see the screen. Risk disclosure. Hopefully the sound is good. Okay. Appreciate that. So again, for those just joining us, welcome. Today will be hopefully very insightful. Let's get the risk disclosure stuff out of the way. So trading the foreign exchange markets carries high risk, may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin and utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk and can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. Do take that to heart, because my role as the CMA really is your risk manager. It's about protecting and it's about getting you on track. I can tell you, as I start these calls off every week with the same theme, most of the emails and notifications that I get are all on the same theme. One, haven't paid attention to the settings, either upline or downline, but more importantly, myself and my trade tracking channel on Telegram. So please subscribe to that trade tracking channel. If somebody listening to this call would be kind enough to pop that link in while I'm talking to the chat window, that'd be outstanding. Share the link, make sure everybody's subscribed. Haven't really had much to comment on last week. Markets were a little calmer, obviously, depending on what ring you were trading. But let me just finish up the compliance before I kind of get started on that. You can also, while this whole event's going on, feel free to put questions in the Q&A window, not the chat window, okay? All right. If you are sharing any of the results from using Alexander, Iris, or Einstein, please do not use the term company recommended settings, okay? I'm really the only one at this entire organization and 8,000 plus subscribers that makes these recommendations. And trust me, we do take these recommendations from a huge data set. And that's why I have mentioned in past weeks that I've considered taking out the Euro JPY of the 3-ring, but it would lose diversification, and quite frankly, it would fly in the face of tons of data that we've seen that this pair has actually done really well. I'm going to show you that today. So if I forget to do that as I'm ripping through, showing you guys the live accounts, showing you the demo, some of the adjusted settings we have on the demo, really mostly just for data collection and a broader range of trading purposes. You'll see on a higher stop loss that we have on that. Not as important as going through the high volatility settings, which I'll go through today as well. But so Auvoria Prime does not have any recommended settings. We are not a financial advisory firm. So our main goal as an organization is to have tons of really educated and happy subscribers. And because of that, we only license software that users can have however they want and at their own risk and discretion. So some software does come with default settings upon initial setup with our users, but they have the ability to customize their settings however they want. And that comes with a big caveat. Know what you're doing, okay? Auvoria Prime has nothing to do with a customer's broker account. We don't solicit or take investments. I don't recommend any brokers, nor does the company. So we're just licensing software and selling amazing education. Susan, Adeze, and all of the great coaches out there, hats off to you. Again, we just want the education level to be high so you can learn and potentially benefit from it. These are not company recommended settings. So as I often say, trading safely equals happy trading. So with that being said, for those of you that are new to, take a look at the screen here. If you need to take my email down, please do so. Remember, it's going to sound the same for everybody who wants to send me an email. There's 2 things I need before I can answer your email. And I don't want any complaints. If you can't give me the 2 things, I'm not answering the email. 1, a screenshot of your settings. 2, your account linked up to my FX book. If you're not sure how to do that, please go out onto YouTube and Google it. There's lots of great education out there on how to link it up. But essentially my role and expectations, along with the team, our director of R&D, Tyler, and his group, and a lot of the directors of the different teams out there have been doing the exhaustive work not only on beta testing and additional products, which has been exceptionally exciting, but also on making sure that the high volatility settings, which I'm going to talk about again today, are communicated throughout the team. So I still am getting emails here and there from people that never even saw the high volatility settings webinar. So, and it was, if I'm not mistaken, the 30th of May. Pretty sure that was the high volatility settings presentation. Tyler and myself teamed up, put out good information. It's also on my trade tracking channel. So somebody could please post a link to that. Make sure that you are subscribed. Telegram has a really good app for all Android and Apple devices as well as the desktop. So no complaints about I can't get Telegram. It's got 400 million users. So let me switch over to, let's go through the Forex calendar real quick. I want to make some recommendations real quick before we get into any of this. So the developers are trading this week. My only concern for those trading anything related to the Aussie or potentially the New Zealand ring, I don't know sure how this is going to spill over maybe into that ring, but this is the equivalent of one of the Federal Reserve governors speaking. So probably going to talk a lot about, obviously the C-19 situation globally, but there's always a chance a governor could slip up on their if they do a pre-release of notes and just make some comments related to what's going on inside of the country and their currency. So just be aware of that. Would probably have the software off if you're doing anything AUD related on Sunday night. Just my opinion. Going into the next, those trading CAD, which we are in one of our accounts, we do have another Bank of China governor speaking. In this case, Macklem speaking. He's actually a really good guy. This guy's a real smart cookie. But they always have prepared notes for these. But oftentimes, if there's a Q&A session related to, that's what you really want to be more concerned about these red events, because Q&A is obviously unscripted stuff. It's unreleased notes, and things can have a tendency to go a little wild. So we want to make sure of that as well. Let me just check one thing here. All right, so the link is into my Telegram channel and chat. Please make sure you subscribe. The questions, you could post them in the Q&A. We are trading this week with high volatility settings. So what are high volatility settings? If you jump over to my trade tracking channel, which I'm actually going to do right now, you can see the high volatility settings, okay? So as some of you may know, we're running a number of live accounts. We're also running a small demo. It's trading a different ring. But we're basically with the live 25K account, which I'll show right now. We are running this on a 0.01 per 3K. And actually had a pretty good week last week. So when the account's been up, just sort of like you're given a gift of anywhere from 2 to 3%, we're actually force stopping the trade equity out just so the account can finish out the week. In anything that is trading on a daily time frame and trading the normal 3-ring pairs, Euro JPY, which has been troublesome. But I do want everybody to note here, if you're just looking at the screen, granted this isn't this account's been on and off through different periods of time, but it's currently in a little bit of drawdown, which is totally and completely palatable. But looking at just the trades and the profit here, if you could focus on this part, the echo has been through the halls. I'm actually somewhat to blame for this echo, probably not being on point. And it was something like, hey, I'm considering taking the Euro JPY out of the ring. But honestly, if you do that, you're just removing and you're putting more risk in the account. You don't have that sort of full 3-ring diversification as we like to see, which reduces risk, obviously. But you're also taking out something that's been quite profitable historically. This is not a lot of data that I'm showing, but I can promise you I have a bazillion other FX book accounts. If anybody actually wants to see that data, I can bring those accounts up with approval from the other parties. but they essentially showed that the Euro JPY in most of the other accounts cases was highly profitable, and in most of the accounts, it accounted for most of the profit to the tune of probably 55-60% of some of these accounts over last year. So why would I, thinking I'm smarter than the software, right, or smarter than this diversification should be, come out and do that? So if I led anybody astray on that, apologies, please. So with that being said, it's counted a good week. It's about 2%. This is the account that's in euros. This is the demo. Okay, so the demo, make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Yeah, okay, cool. So this is the demo. Trades the a different grouping, you know, a little bit NZD in here, a little bit of GBP, obviously to US dollar related, but we also want some exposure to, you know, and these three pairs have been pretty good as far as, you know, giving lots of trades. Do note that this account has a stop loss that's broader than we normally recommend. Okay, this is not me saying, hey, you guys need to go out and change the stop loss out there. We're just trying different stuff, right? I could probably show a whole bunch of times out there, but realistically, I don't have, you know, we want to get, you know, everybody in on all of the high volatility settings. We really want everybody completely dialed in on that before we start leading folks astray off into other stuff. But, you know, for those that are more expert traders out there that want to trade a different ring, you know, this thing has had a pretty good week last week. So it was in some drawdown. It's pulled itself out of some. We're going to get the FX book link set up to this. We've actually run into some technical issues with this, so apologies for that. And we're also going to get the FX book links to this account. So these are the recommended settings that we recommend trading, the essentially default settings, but with a slight change to the flip-flopping of the position size multiplier and the range multiplier, okay, as you can see here. But this is the normal three rings that we're trading. All right. All right, so see if there's anything I want to comment about this in addition to. So for those of you who are fairly new to my FX book or FX Blue, I just like my FX better because you can tear it apart and there's a lot more data in here. Albeit I will admit I'm not an expert at hooking these things up. I have guys that are much better than I am, the team, to do this for me. But you can Google videos out there as I see the one question asking me. Make sure your questions go in the Q&A box, please, guys, not the chat window. You know, the chat window, you can throw out comments and stuff, that's fine, but just put the Q&A in the Q&A window. That way I can X on each of them out as we go through the questions. So when I'm always looking at trades, there's two things I go to first when I'm looking at any EA, and I want to see this. Okay, I want to see that the win losses have been really high. So anything over 51% with low risk can actually make money. But it's a lot easier to make money when the win rates are much higher. I also want to see what kind of hits in terms of stop losses, and you can see there was two that were stop lossed out in this just recently. But the key thing is that we want to keep the volatility settings going. We may have these going for the rest of the year, folks. So I sincerely doubt this is going to be a fly by the seat. Now, there's some even arguing for a higher, I'll jump back to the screen. There's some that are even higher for an even higher position size multiplier and different changes to these. But for now, we're going to keep the high volatility settings in place. All right, let's take a quick look at the charts real quick. These are daily charts. These are just the majors I like to go through, starting with Euro USD. You can look at these on an hourly chart, whatever. But you guys can see that, you know, it had a huge rip up, and just like almost darn near the same region within, I guess, a broader range. We had a reversal. It's to be expected, essentially. And now we're just pulling back down. Looking at the GBP USD, I had a little bit of bigger moves on Thursday and Friday. So for those of you that were trading those days, I'd be curious to see how the software did on that. But essentially, we're still stuck in a range here on the daily chart. USD JPY stuck in a range, essentially. All these reversals off of the top. Okay. This one's probably one of the better examples of seeing an actual wedge forming on the daily, albeit this is a sloppy wedge, but no surprise that right underneath the 138 or the 139 level was just a waterfall of probably stops to be hit. So this is where being a discretionary trader, you can somewhat exploit this stuff, because as soon as we started dropping below that, we picked up some volume, knew that there was just pockets of stops that were going to go out and be run. And it's almost a given that a lot of the high frequency trading algos out there that are run by big institutional organizations try and target that, terrorize the retail trader. Not much to say here. This one's been wild. So Aussie USD going into just a huge rip down during the pandemic, some sort of height of it, if you will. Came right back up against a huge area of resistance. Resistance really just is nothing. It's resisting to get past it. Whereas a support line, like you can see we had like right through here, support becomes, or I should say, once you bust through a resistance line, in many cases it becomes support. So if we were actually to come back down here, you probably want to see it stabilize somewhere this if you're trading on longer term swing trades. All right. Let's open it up to Q&A. Go through some of these questions I have here. You guys hearing me okay? Got some comments in here that I seem to be breaking up. Am I? You guys hearing me okay? All right. So yes, Sherelle, if I'm pronouncing the name right, is there a video that can watch that tells us what each of the settings in Alexander mean? Are you talking about in terms of this, just the general settings window here? Because we've done tons of webinars on that. I would go back and watch literally every Saturday. We go through lots of this stuff, which I'm not going to go through today. But we do have, I have finished series 1. I haven't had a chance to shoot the other series, but I have shot a video that went through, I think, the first 3 or 4 items, if I'm not mistaken. So we're getting ready to put that out live. Hey, Steve, here's my question. If the levels 0 and 1 hit the stop loss, does the software calculate a new target price for the remaining open trades of that sequence? Thanks. So we talked a lot about how the software operated in previous weeks. It operates on what's called a martingale concept. If you're not sure what that is, just Google it. It's essentially the software taking and putting on a series or a sequence of trades to chase after a theme that is right, but it's essentially putting larger bets on as it goes through it. But essentially, if level 0 and 1 is hits the stop loss, the software will calculate a new target price for the remaining open trades of that sequence. And then your next question was, I've hit my goal 2 weeks in a row. Okay, good job. However, when I hit my goal, it kicks me out of all trades and kills my profit from what it could be. Is there a way to fix that? So I'm assuming you're talking about this fixed weekly goal right here being set to trailing equity. Is that correct? So if you move that back to fixed weekly goal, which you see here, this second line below it, the goal percentage we have set at 3%. That essentially is your goal. This becomes live, if you will. If you have the fixed weekly goal set to trailing equity, then the fixed weekly goal line below it becomes inoperable. It's of no consequence to it because it's chasing a different thing. And then the trailing equity and the start equity buy come into play once you switch that over. But if you want to fix that, so to speak, you can move yourself to a fixed weekly goal. Just understand with a fixed weekly goal, it's just that. I mean, the software is looking to hit a particular upside target. It's not protecting it all on the downside. It's not necessarily a bad thing. If it's going to be a calmer week, and who the hell knows? We talk it's going to be a calmer week, but how many times have I said that and it's bananas the next week, right? So it's just difficult to tell. I mean, one thing that was a comment that was made this morning in our software roundtable chat we have with a lot of senior folks and really smart traders this morning was that, we've had in the past in Forex and previous years, and certainly looking back last couple of decades, we've had a lot more trending going on than we've had now. So markets seem to just be in a higher volatility state. And a lot of that's due to all the other things I've been echoing the last couple of weeks, like a lot more debt for all these countries. Certainly is the case in the US. That's certainly not good for the dollar or any of the other countries' underlying currencies. The money supply has been dramatically increased from central banks, essentially just trying to prop up and stabilize all kinds of markets around the country. And that sets the currency markets ablaze, as it should. So volatility is higher. Again, this is why we have the volatility settings. Do you run high volatility all week, or do you run the default settings? We're running them all week right now. We may be running them for the next 6 months. So with MT4 on the VPS, if you change the time frame the chart is on, does this affect the EA? When does it take effect? Right away or after it finishes the sequence? What if it's in 4 sequences with 1 pair? I'm going to let someone else take that because I'm not sure on that answer. So the question is, with MT4 on the VPS, if you change the time frame the chart is on, does this affect the EA? When does it take effect? If you guys want to post an answer in the chat window, make sure everybody can see it as well. Okay. So just read the question again so everybody's crystal clear. Many of you may not want to get too deep of a dive into this one, but just for clarification purposes, with MT4 on the VPS, if you change the time frame the chart is on, does this affect the EA? When does it take effect? Right away or after it finishes the sequence? And what if it's in 4 sequences on 1 pair? So I'll let you guys hit that. You guys can answer that for me. Shit, I'll be learning something, right? Gotta love it. All right. What is the harm in having a very high goal like 10%? Yeah, there's really no harm in that at all. Hey, shoot, have a goal of 15% or 20. You can have whatever goal you want. My only role is to put it in perspective, right? What do institutions, and I talk a lot about institutions because I ran a small one at one point, but more importantly, what institutions want, right? They want low volatility and they want good returns. They actually don't want high returns because that actually scares off their clients. Remember, institutional hedge funds and trading and family offices, so who are their clients, right? They're endowments. They are sovereign wealth nations. That's their type of client. They are pools of rich people, essentially, right? They are universities. They are public and private pension systems like a CalPERS here in California. I mean, that's who their clients are, right? So they want low volatility, low drawdowns, obviously, and they want good returns. So the reason I'm always sounding that bell is I want all retail subscribers in Auvoria Prime. I want you guys to think like institutions, okay? Because it's going to put you into a different mindset. And that mindset is that until we have a product out, which we have a whole bunch in beta that are showing lots of promise, but until we have a product out that actually just smack the lights out in 1 month trading Forex, we're going to need to be conservative, okay? I usually set a goal for 3% a week. Just understand, in institutional land, if you get 1% a week, you're a god. Just one question. I thought I heard you say if trading AU, turn it off and that it could spill into some NZD. Any thoughts on trading the GBP NZD this week or in general? So I'm going to let Jesse answer that question. I know he's probably going to address it. All I said was you have a Sunday discussion from a Fed governor, or I should say the Bank of Australia governor, speaking. No, that can have implications, as it often does, for currency markets, especially the ones tied to AUD. Okay, a lot of new members. Hey, good to see. Has a 25K account been running since January with mostly conservative settings? No. If so, it has averaged one per week, and then account would be up 20%, assuming your 25K account's 12 weeks or 6 months. So the 25K account has not. This account's been off and on throughout. You can see just by looking at, obviously the performance. Okay. But what our goal is going forward, even though I can't go through day by day and tell you what the settings were on the account throughout each of the last month since January, the account wasn't really organized until essentially March. And it was being traded privately. So I don't know what the settings were back then. But right now, going forward for the foreseeable future, it's 0.01 per 3K in high volatility settings. Would you recommend fixed weekly goal or trailing equity? So the key is that it depends on what your goal is, right? Everybody's got a goal to make money, obviously, right? But if your goal is, just jumping back to the screen here, keep in mind this is our sort of our demo play account. Let's just move back to here to the live account. In these volatile times, I choose not to have a fixed weekly goal, whatever that is. Okay, I choose to have, essentially they're doing the same thing, right? They're both targeting some price, some performance higher, right? In this case, it's 2% for the trigger to start, or 3% for just a flat goal, and then that shuts you down, right? So a lot of people are like, geez, I hit it on Monday, I got 3%. Why don't I just turn it right back on again? Which you certainly can do. We just caution you that unless you know what you're doing and you understand what's coming up this week in terms of red folder events, and if you're comfortable with both of those answers, you are an expert, sure, you can restart it. So let me show you how that works. So here's our favorite terror currency. So you can just use these two buttons here. Some of it had some issues with that, so you can reset the VPS. I have not done that. I don't know how to reset the VPS. I did on the previous version, but maybe one of you guys could pop something into the chat window about the process for resetting the VPS. Other than, I think, a Control-Alt-Delete, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right. For now, though, just to answer your question, Catherine, by the way, great name. That's my mom's name. May God rest her soul. Would you recommend fixed weekly goal or trailing equity? Right now, I would recommend trailing equity, just like our settings that you see on the screen popped up. Consider having a long-term strategy with an account 10K or more. If you have the most conservative settings, trailing equity of 1%, will the software perform a net 1% gain per week on average? I have no way of foretelling that. In a perfect world, the answer to that question would be yes. But we have no way of foretelling that. Morrow, our favorite guy, he's always got lots of great questions. You should open another chat on different time frame without the software. We're testing that one out, Morrow. Just let your heart not be troubled for those, knowing that we are testing and running softwares on different time frames. My MT4 in the VPS shows the time is UTC plus 3. Is this normal? I'll let you guys answer that one. My MT4, see, this is my downfall. I don't understand a lot of this, but to switch over to the new VPS. So here's the question you guys can answer. My MT4 on the VPS shows the time is UTC plus 3 hours. Is this normal? I'm using the volatility settings and I'm into the weekend with 14% drawdown. Would it be best to turn off the auto trading and let it come out of drawdown? Okay, so everybody listen up, because this is a question that gets asked a lot. And It really just depends upon your level of expertise. So if you have, let's just put it this way, if you have Jesse level of expertise, which I don't even have, and you understand this really well, you can play around with that. But if you are like 99.9% of the other subscribers out there, my advice is always the same thing. If you cannot afford to trade with the money that is in a live account trading for you, shame on you. Okay, first, because I've talked exhaustively about this in the past. Second, is I'm not smarter than the software. I'm not. So, I mean, all my great accomplishments in life, and my wife would say I'm still an idiot. Sometimes she's right, right? But for all of that, I'm still not willing to step in front of the software and say I'm smarter than it, because I've seen time and time again that if you have some patience, the software's been able to pull itself out. All right. Let's see. For the 3K demo account you're showing, are you using the same settings for all three pairs? The answer to that is yes. Why not allow fixed weekly goal and trailing at the same time? Well, if you think about it, if trailing equity is a goal, right? It's technically a fixed weekly goal, okay? But with a protection factor attached to it. You can change the trailing equity start to any number you want, okay? You can change this to 3%, right? And essentially, both get triggered. If that in fact was the case, both get triggered when you hit 3%, right? One just stops all the trading. The other turns on a protection factor that's now trailing by 1%. Okay, so if they're both a 3, they get triggered. One would kick you out of the software if it dropped back to 2% in that case. Could you do crypto on the weekend after you hit a regular post? So, honestly, guys, I have very little respect for crypto. Okay, call me wrong, call me an idiot, call me whatever you want. I understand blockchain quite well, but I do not like crypto. I get it. It's probably going to be a beautiful store of value at some point down the road. But if you ask any analyst on Wall Street or any analyst globally or portfolio manager that exact same question, you're probably going to get the same answer. They don't understand it. It's the Wild West. Hasn't even moved out of the log cabin phase to bricks and mortar. We're still basically living in tents, right? It's kind of how I view that area. And it is fraught with fraud and risk. So until there is some semblance of order, like a trading exchange like the NYSE or the CME, right? I don't have any interest in it. Sorry. Entering the week with an 8% drawdown on one pair, would you run another pair in addition? Second week with the same drawdown, same pair. So Jeanette's got some really good questions. I'll tell you, I've been chatting back and forth with her. She's a smart cookie. So entering the week with an 8% DD on one pair, would you run another pair in addition? The answer to that question is how big is the account, right? I think you told me that, Janet, but I forget. I don't know, the size of the account, if it's demo or live. Obviously you want to be trading, in my opinion, with an account that's got more than 3K in it, on conservative settings, trading the Euro JPY USD ring. Okay, that's obviously the default stuff that we've been squawking about for weeks here. But outside of that, if you're just trading with a much smaller account, you're in drawdown on one pair. If you bring in another pair, it certainly will accomplish the diversification, but the account's too small to be handled trading that. Not to say you can't do it. Do keep in mind we're coming out with stuff that you can trade, one pair and two pairs with smaller sizes. Their stuff's in beta, done really well. Yeah, so I mean, with a 10K account, you absolutely want 3 pairs. So the question is, would you bring in a 4th pair or a 5th pair? Probably not for 10,000. If it got closer to 15 or 20, you could certainly bring in a 4th pair. Keep the questions coming, though. Love it. She's testing me, guys. All right. An option would be to start the week with a fixed goal and then switch to trailing when you look to exit the market and your has reached the level that you're satisfied with. You're wrong on crypto. I love it. That's great. I knew that would probably ruffle some feathers, right? But so I'll tell you, by the way, guys, Ryan's actually part of a lot of our groups. Real smart cookie. Some of his advice coming through inside the chat window can certainly carry some weight. Definitely pay attention to what Ryan says, guys. Some of these guys have been at this game a lot longer than I. Does the system recognize a lot size of 0.015? Not at this time. How about using the EA for gold? Have you tried it? So the developers have a slightly different version of this EA with completely different settings trading gold right now. So I know that it's done pretty well, but I don't know what the starting lot size. I don't know any of the settings. So I'll just play ignorant for now. But I do know that they, so far, like how it's trading gold. I personally don't trade gold because I get this question all the time, especially in futures land, my other sort of universe that I play in as a coach. A lot of people ask me, do you trade gold? Do you trade oil? The reason I don't trade those in futures land is that they're both called the Widowmaker for a reason. Will this be published here? I mean, on gold. Yeah, I think if we do come out with it as an additional, let me just take a quick peel through the chat window here, guys. Bear with me a second. Telegram channel's up there, by the way. If you're not subscribed to me on Telegram, shame on you. I think I'm going to have Mariska on as my next guest. She can slap me on the back of the head and also offer some great information for you guys to tell you. She is a knowledgeable lady. Listen to Mariska's advice, please. Lot sizing for gold is very different because gold can move. Yeah, actually, this is from Ryan, one of our global directors, guys. Lot sizing for gold is very different because gold can move many pips much more quickly than most currency pairs. So essentially, even the high volatility settings, I guess, wouldn't work in that case, right? All right, what else we got here? Two requirements for me to answer an email, Rebecca, are I need a screenshot of the settings, and I need you to link the account up to MyFX Book in a perfect world, okay? And make sure when you link it up to MyFX Book and that you don't have everything locked up, because a lot of times they send it to me and everything's locked up. I can't see what's going on. I can't see the trades that executed, either opened or closed or anything in history. So I need to have it unlocked, not for me to get into the account, obviously. I'm just viewing. But I need to be able to see everything, drawdowns, all that, or I'm flying blind and I can't answer your question. But the vast majority of the emails that come to me sound like this: "Hey Steve, I'm in 6 to 10% drawdown. What do I do?" Right? And that tells me in many cases that they probably didn't listen to any of my previous Saturday calls. Right? Shame on them, because there's going to come a time when I'll stop answering these kind of emails, guys. Honestly. And you're going to have to fend for yourselves, because the answer to the question is going to be, it's either on my Telegram channel or it's in the rather large encyclopedia of weekly calls that are building up in the back office. Would you please publish the MyFX links to the accounts you're trading on? So I have those for the Einstein accounts. I don't have the time, guys, to be at some point I will, but right now I don't have the time to be messing around with Alexander and approving trades. Okay, I just don't have the time of the week. So there'll be other accounts that are approving Alexander trades that I will be sharing the links to going forward. All right, cool. Anybody got any last questions? Because I'm going to shut this down. We're getting a little tired and bored out on today about this. We're sort of beat a dead horse here. Anybody's got any questions on them, ask me now, or forever hold your peace, at least until next week. So, advice for the week, right? Hopefully, there's low volatility. Hopefully, none of these Fed governors come out and say crazy shit. And hopefully, it's basically a calmer week in terms of volatility. Alrighty. I guess this, what's that term that you marketing guys use? The 777, right? Is that what we need? So put that 77 in the Zoom webinar chat. How many currency pairs on a $5,000 account? I would run 3. The ones that you see on the screen, the main ring. And now they say I'm leaving all these questions to show up. You guys are killing me. Summary on the advice I get from the reprocess is, not sure what that means. The time frame setting is up to us. When we run it on a daily chart, Don, doesn't change it once it's set. If you need to look at the chart, open up another would not be. I'm not sure what that means, Don. What about a 2K account? What pairs would you recommend? So if you guys go into the back office, you can see we have this whole piece from here. Let me just bring this over here. Let's use the right one here. So this is the notes. I'm actually working on some of them right now. They're mostly up to date. So you guys can see this is just a Word file here. These are the notes that I post in the back office. You know, honestly, every one of you guys that's asked these questions related to this tells me you probably haven't looked at this. So, hey, no worries. You know, I'll just point you out to the crowd occasionally. But this is really good stuff that you guys should know standing on your head frozen, in my opinion. So this talks about everything, what we do, right, in terms of the accounts, essentially the $2,000 account, just like you can see here, we trade Euro USD, USD JPY. You know, obviously we're leaving out the more volatile of the 3 rings, at least recently, from that recommendation. That is a time frame in each chart influence the way the EA is functioning. Is it Mariana? Yeah, it asked some good questions, by the way. Thank you. How does the time frame on each chart influence the way the EA is functioning? So the shorter the time frame, the more trades it's going to take, right? But also the shorter the time frame, the more risk you have to trading. You know, you have a lot more safety in trading daily, weekly charts, you know, monthly, obviously, because the patterns that set up are much more dependable, if you will, and not always. The shorter the time frame gets, the more you get into wackadoo trading land, in my opinion. Like, for instance, I never trade the futures markets on a 1-minute chart. I do not scalp. I will trade more using a 5-minute time frame, but I trade on patterns that were created over the last month, 6 months, 2 years, you know, in terms of volume, which is something you can't see in Forex, which totally sucks. But I really wish we could see the volume that executed at price levels in Forex. It would bring a whole different paradigm into being able to technically analyze this stuff, but that's just me complaining. So hopefully that answers your question. Some people may have just got started or are not fully aware of your Telegram post or all the other opinions in the back office yet. So this is actually a good point, and thanks for bringing it up. You've if they're not fully aware of this, the people above them that brought them in did not do a good job, in my opinion, because our team, you know, our team is run exceptionally tight, and so are a lot of other teams out there as well. And one of the first things that's talked about past the setup of the software is the education component. It's got to immediately come into the discussion literally in the same 30 or 40 seconds. You know, got to get into Steve's Telegram channel. You've got to go to the back office and watch all the previous ones. I don't know the answer to that question, Philip. Do we have to use a converter for use in euro, or do we just change the symbol? Not sure what you mean by that. Maybe somebody else could hit that in chat window. Where in the back office are the notes? All right, so here's the notes here. I'll show you where they're on the back office. If you go into resources right here on the left-hand side, go down to Alexander and Einstein, and then you can go to the forecast trade week. You'll see that everything we have here is all archived recordings and so forth through the whole period of time of doing this, which we're coming up on, what, 2 months now? So that's that. All right, cool. All right, so anybody that's got any other questions, you could ship me an email, please. Otherwise, everybody, may the trades be with you, right? Today, again, is the 20th of June. I am Steve Vetterl, and I'm wishing everybody one hell of a weekend. Be well.